We have completed financial options, payable system options, and payable options. And the next thing is, we'll not get into the all these payment related things now. Payment related things I'll cover in the what do you call next session. So today we'll get into the different kinds of invoices. So we have covered the financial options, we have covered the payable options, and I'll quickly get into this payment terms. And already mentioned that there are Oracle has provided certain payment terms. If you want to use, you can use those payment terms. And if you do not want to, if you want to generate your own payment terms, you can generate your payment terms. So payment terms are nothing but like 30 days, 60 days, something like that. So there are different payment terms, 15 days, 30 days, whatever it is. And if you want to use calculate your own payment terms, you can create your payment terms by putting a different things like okay, we'll use the system provided payment terms. And next we will proceed with the supplier creation. Before I proceed with supplier creation, I want to take 10 minutes break. So we'll reassemble it 10:05. Now it's 9:56 in my laptop. So we'll reassemble it 10:05. Okay.
Sure.
Yeah. Okay. We'll start with the supplier creation. So as I said that to create any invoice, supplier is mandatory. So we need to start with the supplier setup. So supplier would be supplier entry, create a supplier. Okay. So in our case, we will be creating the supplier under Reliance Postpaid operating unit. So assume that Reliance Communications or Reliance Postpaid operating unit is purchasing something from a particular say it is purchasing something from a particular vendor. So maybe the vendor name could be what else we can say, maybe something ABC. So that's the vendor name. Click on apply. And there are a lot of other things, like if you actually look at the actual vendor screen, there are so many different details. So everything is not mandatory. So wherever there's a star, we'll concentrate on only those things. Okay. There's something called alternative supplier, DUNS number, URL. It's a name of that tax registration number of that company and all other stuff. So we'll not get into those things. And what is the line of business of that particular company. So just click on apply. Okay, so what it says is there are already an existing vendor with the name of ABC vendor. So it is saying that do you want to use that particular vendor? I mean, this is actually kind of a functionality available in release 12 that whenever you try to create any kind of a new vendor or customer, it is going to check if there is existing vendor or customer with the same name. If it is available, it will ask you to, it will provide you those details. So here you can say something called match 100%. So we have created a vendor, it is not yet saved. So we have created a vendor with ABC. So it says that there is already an existing vendor, a vendor with existing with exactly the same name. And here you can see 60% because there is a vendor by name ABC BG legal entity. So ABC is matching. Similarly, ABC broker, apps foundry. I don't know how apps foundry is matching. I mean, it is looking for only A. So it is giving some kind of an existing organization. So if you want to use existing one, you can just click on this. You can say use existing organization. Please select. Okay, looks like it has already used this. Okay, because this is grayed out, it's already used and it has created this ABC vendor. And Now click on cancel. It has already created that vendor. Let us try to requery that. ABC vendor. Okay, so the vendor is created. Now the next step is you need to assign an address for the vendor. So there is something called supplier sites functionality in Oracle. So what is supplier site?
Arvind, there is an inactive date here, right? So does that have any significance?
So inactive date is if you put an inactive date, this is nothing but end dating of the vendor. So if you put an inactive date on, so if I put an inactive date of say 24th of September, then I will not be able to use this particular vendor during the data entry screen. So it is end dating of the vendor.
Right, that's what I'm saying. So it's already end dated, right?
No,
On
it's not end
24th of
dated. It's not end dated. See,
Oh, it's defaulting a date.
no, it's not even defaulting. It's just saying the format. So if I put my cursor here, there is no date there. So if I really
Okay.
end date, it will look something like this. Okay.
Okay.
See, it is in a kind of a light gray color. It is not end dated.
Right.
It's just showing the format.
Okay. Got it.
Okay. So for every supplier, there needs to be a site, supplier site. So again, when you're creating your invoice, your supplier site and supplier site both are mandatory. So generally, supplier site is basically for one location of supplier. You create that as a one supplier site. So take an example of supplier ABC vendor, and for this particular supplier has got businesses, or like he has got his operations in Hyderabad, Ahmedabad, and say Mumbai. So what we will do is we will create three different sites for this particular vendor, ABC vendor. Under ABC vendor, there could be three different sites: Hyderabad, Ahmedabad, and Mumbai. Okay. So now we'll assume that this particular vendor has got two sites. So we'll create two sites: Ahmedabad and Hyderabad. Okay. First, we'll start with the Hyderabad.
Arvind.
Yeah.
So when you use this screen through the AP,
Sorry.
when you use the AP screen, the AP supplier creation screen,
Uh-huh.
will that be a part of the TCA?
Yes, this is part of TCA. Yes. So your supplier, customers, employees, everything is now part of TCA in release 12.
But are you but when you are taking this responsibility, you are selecting the responsibility,
Mm-hmm.
and you are in the custom responsibility, you have assigned your operating unit,
Uh-huh.
and you have defined the supplier. How it can be shared supplier, like do you understand what I'm trying to say? Like how it is shared, why it is not restricted to your responsibility, how it become as spread across the instance.
Okay, so supplier header is generic in Oracle, whether it's 11a and R12. Supplier header is generic, and as far as supplier sites are concerned, supplier sites are operating unit specific. Okay, so as far as
Right.
supplier sites are concerned, I can create a sites and I can associate that particular sites to the corresponding operating units. Okay, so my MO operating unit is Reliance Postpaid. Under Reliance Postpaid, I can have three different sites, or I can have only one site. And where there is another screen, in the next screen, I'll specify, like, once I create an address, so there I need to specify what is the operating unit to which this particular address belongs to or site belongs to.
You mean to say that MO operating unit will get impacted only to the site level
Yes.
addresses that you are defining?
Exactly. Supplier header is generic. So take an example. There is a vendor, say ABC vendor, and it has got say two different sites. Going back to this, okay, two different sites. One site is created under Reliance Postpaid, and another site is created under Reliance Prepaid. Okay. Then, as far as the ABC vendor header is concerned, when you go to this Reliance Postpaid is concerned, you'll be able to see the vendor ABC vendor and the site which belongs to Reliance Postpaid. And when you go to the Reliance Prepaid, you'll be able to see the supplier ABC vendor and the corresponding supplier site only. You will not be able to see the site of Reliance Postpaid. Okay. Similarly, even if you go to Reliance Telecom, which falls under USD ledger, you can still see this particular vendor, that is the supplier header, but you will not be able to see the corresponding supplier sites.
Okay. So,
I mean,
one
there is some background noise coming and I think there is some air coming from someone's phone.
Okay, just give me a minute.
It's gone now.
What about now?
Yeah, it's gone now.
Okay. Okay, so
okay.
vendor header is actually generic across the instance, but whereas the sites are operating unit specific.
Okay, so it is similar to the 11i or 11i software creation
Exactly.
even in TCS, right?
Yes,
Okay.
yes.
In this case, like when you are creating an supplier, how it is like defaultly it is creating a party and a party type as a supplier, or
Yes,
how that is happens.
yes. You are going to the supplier and create a supplier, and when you create a supplier, automatically it creating a record in the SG parties under TC architecture.
Okay.
And the system understand that system understand that you are going to the supplier screen and creating a record. So system understand that it should create a record in HZ parties with a type as supplier. And if you go to the customer screen, try to create a supplier customer, then system understand that it needs to create a record in HZ parties with the type as customer.
Okay, based upon the window which you are selecting, it is taking the respective party type.
Exactly.
Okay,
Because obviously
okay,
there is a code written in the background that when I click on save, there is a code written in the background saying that, oh, this is coming from this particular screen, so it should update in HZ parties with a type of supplier, something like that.
so even when you are creating an employee, if you don't mind.
Creating an employee is from the HRMS screen.
Right, yes.
So
Because sometimes, as you mentioned, create a employee as a supplier. So
even,
if that is not defined in a TCA,
mhm.
then how he become a supplier?
Okay, so in that particular case, you need to come to this particular screen, create the employee as a supplier. I mean, like, yeah, in other words, like so Narendra is an employee. Okay, if that particular checkbox is checked, automatically a record is created in the HA parties with a type as supplier. If the checkbox is not checked, you need to come to this screen. Sorry, not the HRM screen. You need to come to this particular screen and create. And under the supplier name, you need to create supplier name as Narendra, and there is one tab wherein you need to specifically associate it to your employee record. I can check that, but there is one particular tab. So that's how system understand that this is the employee supplier, or this is the supplier linked to that employee.
Okay, so when creating an employee, we need not to be it's an TCA, but when it is as a part of a supplier customer, it should be as a part of TCA.
Yeah, I mean, so there are two things. One is like creating employee as a supplier, but what I'm saying is, in general, in the TC architecture, now in R12, your suppliers, customers, and I think even employees, if I remember it correctly, even employees are also falling under TC architecture. So I'm talking about the normal employees, which are created in
Okay,
the US HRMS.
okay, okay,
Okay, so that's a different thing.
okay,
So from this particular screen perspective, what we are saying is normal suppliers and employee suppliers. So when you when you say employee suppliers, either check that particular checkbox, and when somebody is creating when the particular employee is creating an expense report, automatically an employee will be created as a supplier. Or if you do not check the checkbox, come to this particular screen, enter that employee name as a supplier name, and there is one particular tab. I can find out that wherein you need to associate that employee name.
Yeah, just go to the supplier main screen. There is a type of a vendor. That's where you need to link. What is the type? Is it a
Yeah,
vendor or is it an employee?
yeah, no, yeah, that's fine. So first we'll continue with the normal vendor, then we'll get into that employee as a vendor. Okay,
sure, sure.
okay. So this is the vendor header, and go to the address book. Okay, and in the address book, so I think there is somebody's already created some I remember, like, I had created this particular site in my previous training session. Okay, anyways, so now I'll try to create a new address. Okay, address, maybe I want to create for Hyderabad, right? So just give some number. And what is the name for this particular address? So the name could be anything. So I can say the name as ABC underscore Hyderabad. Okay, click on save. Okay, so this is where you can see this is associated with the Reliance postpaid operating unit. Okay, as in this particular responsibility, as I have access to only Reliance postpaid operating unit, so here I am able to see only Reliance postpaid operating unit here. So I am associating Reliance postpaid operating unit to this particular site. So if for the same what do you call vendor, you can go into the Reliance, what is the other one, Reliance prepaid operating unit. Okay, you should be able to bring up the same supplier site. You need to again go to this particular screen and associate it with your Reliance prepaid. So that means in 11i, for each vendor in 11i or R12, vendor is at a global level. Okay, as far as the site is concerned, even though if it is the same site, say 21-13 Dilshnagar, Hyderabad, Telangana. Okay, so that's the site with the name of Hyderabad. So you need to replicate exactly the same site in two operating units. But whereas in R12, the site is created once, the header is already created once, the site is also created once, but you need to just go to this particular screen and just associate it with the corresponding operating unit. So in this case, we have created the site and we are associating with the Reliance postpaid. But whereas if the Reliance prepaid operating unit is also available, now what we can do is we need to go to payable supervisor, Reliance prepaid operating unit, bring up this particular query for this particular vendor site, and come to this particular screen and just associate it to the Reliance prepaid operating unit. Does this answer your question, Narendra?
Yes, Arvind. Yep, I got it.
Okay. Now click on apply. Okay. So one address is created. Now I want to create one more address. Okay. Even before we proceed, I think what we need to do is we need to click on update. Okay. So where exactly you want to use this particular address? It is important. You want to use it in purchasing module. You want to use in AP module for payment. So check these two check boxes. If you do not check these check boxes, then you will not be able to select the supplier site during data entry. Okay. Now we will create one more address. ABC underscore Ahmedabad. Maybe Ahmedabad and some number. Ganesh Street, something like that. And address name is ABC Ahmedabad. Okay, so this should be okay. Again says purchasing, payment, continue. Okay, associate with the operating unit Reliance postpaid. Click on apply. Okay, now a vendor is created. Two sites are created. One is ABC Ahmedabad and ABC Hyderabad. So this is the address name, which is nothing but the site name. So in R12 we are calling it as an address name, and whereas in 11 you used to call it as a site name. Okay. So when you're doing a data entry or whenever you're creating an invoices, then you will be able to select ABC vendor and the corresponding supplier sites. Okay. So there are a lot of other things like your contact information, business classification, product and services. Most of these are optional. Okay, you need not get into those things. We'll check couple of things under the invoice management which are mandatory. So you can see term date basis, pay date basis, terms. All these are actually defaulted from the your payable options and financial options. No, from where the invoice currency is defaulted to EGP, it should be INR. Okay, save this. And let us check if we need to do anything under the payment terms, payment details. No, that's fine. Okay, we can proceed with the creation of the invoices. Okay, so these are the basic things which you need to do for setting up of the supplier. All other things are just used only in a kind of a reporting purpose. They do not have any other significance. Contact details, business classification, product and services, other things. And one more thing, we want to check the accounting part. So here you can see these are the main important account, which is the liability account, your prepayment account. If you remember, like where did we mention these accounts?
Financial options.
Exactly, the financial options you mentioned, the liability account and prepayment account, those are defaulted here. Okay, now when you try to create invoice, whatever is mentioned here will be defaulted. If you want, you can make changes here. So when you make changes here, all the invoices whatever we are going to create now will have the updated liability account or prepayment account. If you do not make any changes, then whatever is defaulted from financial options is available here, and from here it goes to your invoice level. Okay, now we'll try to